Let's talk now to some Conservative voters then. Roberto Whedon-Sands, Zoe Wong and Phil Shepherd. Linda Burbridge used to vote UKIP. She now supports the Conservatives too. And we've got two floating voters here, Muyiwa Adigan and Stephen Morris. Welcome all of you. Thank you very much for coming on our programme. OK, Theresa May or Boris Johnson?
Theresa May. No doubt.
Theresa May.
Boris Johnson.
I'm kind of leaning towards Boris if he gets it right.
None of the above.
Who do you want to lead the country?
Anyone but them two.
Anyone?
Almost anyone. Well,
from
perhaps not quite
Conservatives
Nick
or
Clegg,
from...
but you know.
Sorry, Nick Clegg?
I said perhaps not Nick Clegg,
Oh,
but
right, okay.
anyone but them two.
OK. So why are you still supporting Theresa May?
Well, I think it's quite clear that she's a grown-up who's doing what's best for Britain, which seems to be in short supply in politics right now. She's really working on a deal that works not just for 52 that voted for Leave, but also the 48 voted to Remain. Because I think what the government really needs to do is find a deal and a compromise that works for everyone in the country. And I think actually most voters now have a lot of respect for her, showing after the last year the resilience that she's shown, taking punches from all sides, from her own side, from the Labour and from the EU, and managing to soak them all in and still plough ahead.
You'll do well in the Conservative Party with that kind of answer. Zoe Wong, you're not a Conservative councillor, unlike Roberto, but you are a Conservative supporter, and you would prefer Theresa May to continue leading this party. Do you think this week has been about much more than anything apart from her survival?
About her survival, I think she's doing the best she can at the moment.
Because it's an impossible job.
Yeah.
But is she doing the impossible job well or poorly?
It's difficult to say at this point in time. I think
that's not exactly a ringing endorsement.
Well, given the circumstances, she is trying to people please everyone and keep everyone happy, but
and failing, you'd have to say.
Well,
miserable.
The check is still.
Why do you say miserably?
She's balancing a tightrope or a seesaw that cannot be balanced. It's the Tory party have been riven for years with Europe. You throw Europe in the ring with half a dozen Tory MPs and you'll get 14 different answers. It doesn't work for them and they're costing the country a fortune.
You two are floating voters, that's how you would describe yourselves. I mean, genuinely, is there something that the Conservative Party could say or do that would attract you to vote for them at the next general election, whenever that may be?
I think we just have to kind of wait and see. I mean, if we're predicting that the next general election will be in like 2020, there's not going to be any more snap elections. Like, we kind of want just for Brexit to happen and then kind of see where it goes, because nobody knows how it's going to affect like the average like Muyo on the street. Like, it's all up in the air still. So we'll wait and see.
What about you, Steve?
I live in Luton, and yesterday one of the main employers in Luton was worried about what Brexit's going to do. At the minute, I think we were sold a pup. And if you were going to go and buy a house and the surveyor turned around and said the roof's leaky and the foundations are sinking, you would think again.
I'm
and
guessing
I think
you
it's time
voted
to
Remain.
again.
I might be wrong, did you?
I did, yes.
Yeah, OK. Linda, you used to support UKIP. You're now a Conservative supporter. Because what? There's no point supporting UKIP anymore now we've had the referendum.
Yeah, I think it's just at the moment, I can't quite see where UKIP is going. So I've decided that.
So what is it that's about Theresa May?
Well, really, it's not. I think what you said is right. I think she is the grown-up in the room. But on the other hand, she really needs to listen, I think, much more to her colleagues who are telling her that maybe she needs to think again about Chequers. I think that she needs to keep on paying attention to the fact that the Brexit vote was to leave, and that meant leave, not leave with all these other things. And as Boris Johnson said yesterday, if we're half in and half out, we're nowhere. So we need to make this move and then see where it goes.
Do you buy the argument that if you make the full move and you're totally out, then you split up the United Kingdom?
I'm not.
Or you end up with a hard border between Ireland and Northern Ireland.
Well, yeah. I think I don't think you split up the United Kingdom, because the whole United Kingdom will be out, including Northern Ireland. But that issue has to obviously be dealt with, and I've been trying to figure out what that is. But no, I don't think we break up the United Kingdom because we leave. I think these are things that the government can work out. The thing is, I don't think that we ought to have a general election right now, because I think that would just muddy the waters. That would be crazy, which is probably why I still support Theresa May.
Phil, you said Boris Johnson would be a better leader, in your view.
Yes, in my opinion, he'll be a better leader because he's someone who stands up for the result. He's, as Linda said, he supports Leave genuinely, as the British people voted, rather than.
But he did write those 2 articles for the Daily Telegraph before the vote, didn't he? One which was backing Remain and one which was backing Leave, and at the last minute decided, yeah, I'm going for Leave.
He wrote those 2 articles, but having read through the Remain article, it seemed much less genuine than the
oh my
Leave
gosh,
article.
that's tortuous defence, but fair enough.
Yes. However, saying that, I don't think Boris is the ideal candidate, but he's the best placed candidate at the moment to deliver the Super Canada deal, which is the Brexit that vote Leave, and also the Remain side were saying that would happen. Because
Which the Prime Minister says would lead to a hard border between Ireland and Northern Ireland.
It won't necessarily lead to a hard border between Ireland and Northern Ireland because as the Super Canada deal outlines, we can have technology between.
Which no one seems to think could work because it's not been done anywhere.
Well, we can only experiment, but fundamentally.
We can only experiment.
It seems like going back to go forward.
But fundamentally,
it seems like we're trying to go back to something to try and move forward. It just seems like we're rushing things when something like this, like you should take.
I want to ask you
slowly.
about their conference this week. I don't know how much attention you've been giving to it, or if you've been listening to the news to see what announcements have been made. We've had an announcement about immigration being changed after Brexit. Obviously, we've had this announcement about waiters getting to keep their tips. We've got the freezing of fuel duty, which is going to be announced by the Prime Minister today. Broadly speaking, that's it. Is that enough?
I actually completely disagree. I think,
Go for it.
I think Theresa May, part of the reason she was so popular before the general election last year was because voters felt that she actually cared and understood about the problems of day-to-day voters.
That was before the general election,
no,
and the general election, as you know, she lost a majority.
And since then Brexit has sort of crowded everything out. But if you look at her domestic agenda and what she talks about domestically, I think the policies on the NHS,
agenda.
Policies on housing,
money coming to the NHS in a few years' time, which will be paid for by
you don't hear
raising
about it that
taxes.
much on the media. But she has solutions to the problems that the day-to-day voters care about.
Like what?
Well, like I say, on NHS, providing more funding, housing,
where?
as a young person, solutions for first-time buyers, slashing stamp duty for first-time buyers, looking at making it easier to build homes. I just think the media doesn't pay attention to a lot going on because Brexit's obviously far more exciting, but that agenda is there.
But actually the government doesn't pay more attention to those things because Brexit
of course.
consumes...
But once Brexit is finished, I think we'll see that Theresa May is able to go back to focusing on that domestic agenda, and we'll hear a lot more about it.
With a bit of luck, Brexit could be finished today if she made the right speech, but I doubt it's going to happen. The Tory party and the leavers of the European Union had no plan to start with. We've got 6 months to go and they have even less plan now. They still don't even know what their best ideas are because they don't have any ideas at all. The largest businesses in the country are saying to them, think again.
The problem is that ministers didn't plan for a vote to leave before the referendum happened. They should have planned as soon as
they should have, but they didn't.
But now
that's
they've had 2 years
problem.
as well. So it's like...
Well, they've planned it since, obviously. They have some plans since, but David Cameron should have planned it, and it's the complacency of the Remain campaign back in 2016 that is one of the reasons why we're in this mess right now.
I don't think you can blame the Remain campaign.
You're blaming Remain.
It's too far.
We are where we... I mean, Phil, surely we are where we are.
Yeah, we are where we are. That's fundamentally where the problem is.
I think the British people summed it up in 2017 when they told Theresa May she no longer has a majority. She should think again before she decimates what's left of the Tory party.
And yet more people voted for her than for many politicians in the last few years. She got a higher percentage than most winning parties.
Then if you're that
had.
confident, either have a people's vote or go to the country.
We've already had a referendum.
Yeah,
Why have another?
let's have another. We had one in 2017.
I've said this before, that's like going back and playing the football game again, see if we can get a different result. We've had the result, that's it. We need to now work with this and move
you're
forward.
trying to say then that what Margaret Thatcher done in the 80s can't possibly be changed because we had a vote in the 80s, or what Tony Blair done in the 90s can't possibly be changed because we had a vote That's your argument. Are you honestly telling me you're risking the future of the country on you can't change your mind, or someone told porkies? £350 million a week. I remember it written on a big red bus. I think it even drove through Luton.
Let Linda respond.
I'm not saying you can't change the things in the past. Of course you can, but we're in the middle of this right now. I think that the government would lose the confidence. The country would just completely laugh at our government going forward for years if we decide to go and vote it again. It's just it just wouldn't work. It's ridiculous.
The whole of Europe is laughing at us now.
I think they're scared actually.
Yeah. If we have another referendum, it will be the latest in a long list of referendums dating back from 1992 in Denmark, which was repeated again because the EU didn't like the result. It would completely shatter the confidence of democracy with the British people. And a lot of young people think that the system isn't working for them. And this will simply be an extension of that.
Let me read some messages. Hang on, then I want to bring Zoe in. Royston says on email, Theresa May, please say in your speech today we're going to use common sense to help small businesses who are the biggest employers in the UK. Jill says, I'd like the Prime Minister to get through the speech without stumbling her words or hesitating. I'd like her to show leadership and sound like a stateswoman with a strong, calm and measured delivery. We can only hope. Winnie wants her to lay out her plans for the future of the UK to alleviate poverty, homelessness, food banks, and also her plans to fund the NHS. This is what we need to know. Well, that will be tax rises. Maybe the Chancellor will say which taxes will rise in his budget in a few weeks' time. Richard on email, please have a second referendum. John says, I would like to hear Theresa May say she will honour the referendum without any further votes or dilution, because if she doesn't deliver this, she will make the Tories unelectable for a generation. What do you think of that, Zoe?
Wow. Okay, that was quite a lot.
If Theresa May doesn't deliver on what John says what he voted for in the EU referendum, it will make the Tories unelectable for a generation.
I think Theresa May, as a voter, I mean, obviously I'm not coming from a political background, but from what I see is she is doing her best to negotiate, and we do have a strong hand. We do, the EU really is at Britain's mercy of what kind of deal they're going to get, because we are leaving. It just depends, are we going to be gracious and give them a farewell leaving gift, or are we just going to drop out and let the bottom fall out and the EU is going to crumble? So it's just a matter of time. It's just how hard and fast it's going to go. But I think in the interests of the British people, we want to leave on good terms so we don't get the blame for what's coming, from what I understand.
Yeah. And are you looking forward to the next 6 months?
I'm praying for it, yeah.
What are you praying for?
Well, I think maybe a better deal that Conservatives, MPs and voters would unify and at least get behind the same principle. If we're divided, then there's going to be a lot of upheaval.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think whatever deal that she comes up with, yes, we just play the strong hand, and we can recover whatever happens. I don't think we should worry too much.
For the Conservative voters here, the four of you, do you accept, Linda, that briefly divided parties don't win general elections?
Yes, I would accept that.
Phil?
Yes, I accept that.
How do you unite this Conservative Party then?
I think the way to unite it is to have a deal that everyone agrees on. I think, to be honest, the Super Canada deal is the best one, because a lot of people on the Remain side of the Conservative Party are worried about going to WTO rules and having tariffs between the UK and the EU. So that will solve that, but also it will solve Brexiteer concerns that Chequers ties us to the EU a bit too much.
Okay. All right, well, her speech is live at 20 to 12, so you'll be able to watch that on the BBC News channel. Thank you all very much for coming in this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.